Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Osteoporosis Canada's Cook with OC cooking demo program today. Before we begin, Osteoporosis Canada acknowledges the land that our offices, located in Toronto, are on, is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. My name is Tracie Napoli, Director of Fund Development and MARCOM at Osteoporosis Canada, and I will be your cooking demo host. This webinar will provide general information about cooking and food knowledge. It's not intended as individualized health or nutrition advice. And of course, as always, we would love to hear from you. So if you have questions or comments related to the webinar, just click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, or you can enter comments into the chat, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can during the webinar within the time available. Nutrition is a key component for strong and healthy bones, and the 5 recommended nutrients for good bone health is calcium, vitamin D, protein, magnesium, and vitamin K. And we get many questions about what types of foods contain these nutrients. And if you visit the Osteoporosis Canada website, osteoporosis.ca/nutrition, you can get more information, exactly how much you should be getting every day, and also a list of different foods. We also like to talk during our cooking demos about strategies for getting bone building nutrients. Especially today, it's so helpful when you plan ahead, choosing versatile ingredients and switching things up. And especially depending on where you are in the country, weather could be very wet and very cool or very hot and even a little smoky if you're where we are today in Ontario. So switch things up. Things like easy to prepare sandwiches and wraps, a do-it-yourself meal kit. They're perfect to take to eat at home or to prep for a quick meal during the week. They're also affordable and allow for personal choices. And of course, we want to ensure that we're eating healthy foods every day, including fresh fruits and vegetables, protein, whole grains, and calcium-rich foods like yogurt, cheese, legumes, broccoli, and bok choy. And another great tool, and we're hoping you've all been able to check out the nutrient calculator. You can use it on the Osteoporosis Canada website, or you can download it from the App Store, or where you get it for Google Play, and you can enter in what you're eating, ingredients for all your meals and snacks, and also find out if you're getting enough of the recommended amounts of calcium, vitamin D, protein, magnesium, and vitamin K. And today's featured recipe is beef kebabs with quinoa tabouli for 2. And we did it for 2 because many of you have shared you don't have large households that you're cooking for. So this is a perfect recipe for 1 or 2 people, either 1 for today and maybe some leftovers for tomorrow, or for 2. And each serving has 300 milligrams of calcium, 43 grams of protein, zero 0.2 micrograms of vitamin D, that's missing the D there, and 113 micrograms of vitamin K, and 160 milligrams of magnesium. I will put the link to the recipe in the chat, but you can find the full nutrient breakdown for this recipe and others, of course, at the website under the recipe section. And as always, it's my pleasure to introduce our friend, Emily Richards, who's a professional home economist, freelance food writer, chef, and she's the author and co-author of 11 cookbooks. I understand Emily is also currently working on a 12th, so we will look forward to that. Emily also writes and develops recipes for print and online publications that include everyday cooking and healthy eating, and she can be found on TV, radio, and webcasts, just like this one. So welcome, Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hello, Tracie. Hey, everybody. It is, yes, a little smoky on a Wednesday afternoon in Ontario, but all is well in the kitchen.
Well, and you know what's so great? So we have our core group of people that love to come on the program, and then we have lots of new people. And already everyone's telling us where they're from and what the air quality is. So, so yes, it is a little smoky. We've got that. So wonderful. Thank you so much. We've got some people from Winnipeg and Burlington, Toronto, also from Vancouver. Yes, hello from Smoky, Ontario. Yes, that's exactly what it's like today. Regina, London, Ontario. That's awesome. So this is great. We've got lots more Saskatoon and Sudbury. We haven't had someone. Oh, in California. Well, hello. Great. And
Nice.
almost New Mexico. Well, hello. We've got so many people on. We're so excited. So today I don't know, we're gonna grill, whatever that looks like, because it really is quite smoky today outside. Um, but we're also going to do what we normally do. So if you're in Canada, I'm sorry, you have to be in Canada, and you're on at the end of the webinar, we're going to draw for an unbreakable apron. So I will do that at the very end. Oh, and from Alberta, there we go. Tawasin, BC. Fabulous. So awesome. So during the webinar, we're going to ask some more questions. So please keep your responses coming in. But we're going to make beef kebabs in quinoa tabouli. How fun and delicious does this sound, Emily?
Well, I have a preference to grilling, and having salad and protein in the summertime is a perfect fit. So I had talked to Tracie earlier, and I'm like, should I go outside? Should I not go outside? She's like, I don't want you to be outside. So I'm not going outside, but if you have any grilling questions today, please feel free to put them in the chat, and hopefully we'll get to a good number of them. And we will talk about grilling. I use my grill pan because some of you might not have a grill. So we'll talk about oven and grill pans, skillets, and grilling. So we'll try to cover it all. The great part is we're doing a small amount, as Tracie mentioned right from the get-go, serves two. So if you are cooking for yourself or a friend and you or a partner, this is great. It's a nice small amount to work with, and we can talk about increasing it if you want to make it for friends, and what to do with all the other things that you have to buy to make this recipe and how you're going to use them up, because that also becomes the problem when you're cooking for small amounts. You might have extra herbs or extra other ingredients. So we'll talk about that too. So try to cover the gamut. If you have questions about the recipe, please put them in the chat as well, and we can hopefully get to all of those, because that's kind of what this is. Now, I'll be upfront about this. If you're making this at home and not having a webinar, the recipe goes actually quite quickly. So we will take a little bit of time kind of going through everything. So it will take a little bit longer than, when you're focusing on it at home. The first thing I want to do is actually make our marinade for the beef. And so what I'd like to do when this is if I'm doing a cooking class or if what we're doing a webinar, I'd like to get all my kind of ingredients that are vegetable based done first, and herbs fit in that category. So this time of year, for those of you that have a garden or access to a community garden, or just outside and you see someone's herbs, because some people plant herbs in their front yard, and I think that's awesome, especially when I'm walking the dogs, because then I can go over and I really don't. I'm just kidding. So having all these fresh herbs, this is a great recipe to kind of showcase and use all of those herbs. So I have two that I've already kind of started chopping, and that is the fresh thyme and the fresh rosemary. So we're starting off with fresh herbs, and I've included herbs like rosemary, thyme, because they have a big pungent flavor, and they work really well with kind of bigger meats like beef. To get across that flavor, and they work really nicely in unison. So I'm already chopping them up. And so it's 2 tablespoons of fresh herbs. So if you've already thought to yourself, Emily, I'm not going to get fresh herbs, or I don't have a garden, I don't have access to a garden, and I don't want to spend, $3 on fresh herbs, that's okay. You can actually use dried herbs here too. And then for the fresh element, use parsley. Parsley is great. I use it often, and it has the green color to it that will give us that nice vibrancy of the marinade as well. So this is not quite 2 tablespoons, so I'm also going to add some. I'm going to use this bowl here. I have a couple bowls out, so I want to make sure that I leave enough space for everything. My chives are here. So I do have some herbs in the garden, chives being one of them. And this gives it a little bit of, an oniony flavor. So green onions would work really well here too. If you wanted to replace the chives with some onions, you could also just use a little bit of minced onion in here or dehydrated onion. Onion powder would work as well. So if you are using the dried herbs, I kind of stopped when I started talking about fresh parsley there, but if you want to add the dried herbs to it, you could use about a teaspoon of dried thyme. You could use about half a teaspoon of dried rosemary, and then make up the difference with the parsley. So you need about a tablespoon of parsley, and that would give you a really nice kind of rounded flavor of herbs. Okay. So I'm going to add my fresh herbs into here. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't measure it, is because I eyeballed it. Are you guys okay with that? Because I can measure it if you want. I'm a big believer of having a little bit extra when it comes to fresh herbs because I do really love that flavor. So if you happen to chop a little extra, don't set it aside. Don't put it in the compost. Put it right into the marinade because you definitely want to enjoy that flavor. So we're going to use a little bit of lemon, and I'm going to use the zest and the juice in the recipe today. So for kind of two parts of it, we're going to use the juice in the tabouleh, and then we're also going to use the zest in the marinade. So that's going to give us a nice little bit of vibrancy. Wash your lemon before you start taking the zest off. And I'm just using my microplane. I need about half a teaspoon of the lemon zest. Now, if you're wondering how I know all these amounts, it's because I have the recipe right in front of me. And Tracie was going to include it in the chat too. So if you haven't checked out the recipe yet, you will have access to the full recipe as well. So half a teaspoon. I usually sometimes bank about half a lemon for half a teaspoon. And this gives us just that outer bit of the zest. So it has all that wonderful flavor of the lemon. And you get a really nice aromatic scent in the kitchen while you're doing it. So there goes my half a teaspoon of lemon zest. And then it calls for 1 clove of garlic minced, but I already have my, whoops a daisy. I already have my microplane out, so I'm not going to mince it. I'm just going to grate it. Okay. So this is great if you don't want to, mince garlic, or if you want something that's just a little bit more fine, the microplane works really, really well for this. And you can use it for other things too. You can use it for ginger, you could use it for chocolate, maybe not in that order, unless you're making something with ginger and chocolate. Oh, and I can't seem to get this end here to go through. There we go. So much like you would trim off that end of the garlic if you were mincing it, you can just stop when you get to that point, or I guess you can add it. This one really wants to go into the bowl. There we go. Okay, that goes in. And then we're going to add our extra virgin olive oil. Now, if you don't have extra virgin olive oil, you can use whatever oil you have at home. I like the flavor of the oil. It has a Mediterranean feel, this recipe, so that's why I'm using it. But by all means, if you have any neutral oil, it will work. Avocado oil, whatever you have at home, will definitely work for this, because really we want the flavor of the herbs, the garlic, and the lemon to come through. So you can see super, super simple here. We're not kind of going crazy with ingredients because we really want that flavor to come through. We want that beefiness to come through. And this will just accent it and also coat the beef really nicely with all the herbs. So I'm just going to give that a little stir here. Okay, and I'm going to set this aside. I do want to go over and make sure that I have all my other ingredients chopped before I start cutting the beef. So this is just a little food safety tip for the kitchen. I have my cutting board. I'm starting with everything before I introduce the beef. So that's why I'm going through the recipe. This is also a great way to make sure that you have all your ingredients for the recipe. It's not a lot of ingredients, so you definitely want to make sure you have them. So here I have, let's see, my zucchini and my peppers I've already cut. And then what else do I need for the quinoa? I have my quinoa that I rinsed. My garlic is minced. Vegetables are chopped. Oh, I need parsley and mint. So that's the other thing I wanted to chop. So I have a little bit of parsley here. We just, again, It says a couple tablespoons. If you wanted to chop a couple extra, that's okay too. Tabouli actually is very parsley forward, so traditionally. And we've kind of used the inspiration of tabouli, which is typically made with bulgur, but today we're making it with quinoa. And you can use other grains too. So quinoa is great because it's gluten-free. So for a lot of people, it's already in their pantry. But you could also use couscous if you wanted to. You could definitely make it with bulgur, but you could change it up and also make it with rice. Brown rice or barley would be fabulous because all these flavors work really, really nicely with any of those grains. Okay. Even if you had some small pasta like orzo, you could make it with that too. So I'm gonna chop up my parsley. So there's a couple tablespoons of parsley. And then I'm going to take my mint. I have mint, a lot of mint in the garden. And I think, well, this is what I do in the summer when I have all this mint. I try to add it to everything I can. So if you think mint can't go with something, I guarantee you, if you have a lot of it, it will go with it. I know a traditional one is mint with lamb, for example, but mint and beef, quite lovely. If you love making, dips like raita or a little bit of a tzatziki, add a little bit of mint, absolutely delicious. Okay, so we need a couple tablespoons of this fresh mint as well. And this, if it looks funny to you, it's a wild mint. So it has very pointy leaves, but super, super fragrant, which I absolutely love. It's also great just to put in some sparkling water. Okay, so I'm just gonna mince this up. And then I'm gonna put this into my larger bowl that will have eventually the tabouli go into it. So there's a couple tablespoons of each of the herbs, and I'm going to get that in there as well. Now, you'll notice the difference here. So these are lighter, I like to call more delicate herbs, and then we used a bit more pungent herbs. So this is going to be the tabouli that we're going to get everything in there nice and fresh. And then this is going to be the marinade for the beef. So slightly different herbs, but together they become wonderful. And to replace any of the fresh herbs for the tabouli, think of those more delicate herbs like parsley. Basil would be beautiful in this as well. And if you wanted to, you could use just one fresh herb as opposed to multiples. And that goes for the marinade for the beef as well. Okay. So I've done a lot of talking here, Tracie, and I've bounced around. But let's get the quinoa on and then I'm going to cut the beef. Okay. And then we'll see if there's some questions because I know I've been like jibber jabbering for a while. But first we're going to get the quinoa on because that needs to cook. So I have 3/4 cup of water. So if the amounts are small, it's because we're only serving 2 people. So that's what we're starting with. And then I have half a cup of quinoa and I've rinsed it. Okay. So that quinoa has that little kind of coating on it, like saponin. I think that's what it's called. Verify for me, Tracie, if you have a minute. And then just by rinsing it, it kind of takes away that little bit of bitterness. So it does help if you do that little bit of a rinse. And try to use a fairly fine sieve or else the quinoa will go right through. You definitely don't want that to happen. And we're going to season it right in here. Okay, so we're just going to add a little pinch of salt. Now, if you wanted to, you could switch up the water and use a vegetable broth or a chicken broth to cook the quinoa in, which would be really lovely. And I want you to notice that this was tricolor quinoa. So it has red, it has a little bit of black, it has a little bit of regular quinoa in it. But you can use any type of quinoa in this recipe. And it'll just change up the look a little bit, that's all. Okay, so we want to bring this to the boil. Okay, and I'll take a minute to see if there's any questions because I just threw a whole bunch of information at you.
Well, you gave me time to do some stuff actually. So that was so I did look that up from a credible source online. And yes, the term that you used is correct. And it's a
Okay.
coating on the quinoa. Apparently, that just makes it taste a little bit bitter. So, but just like things like rice that people rinse, not everyone does. It's a personal preference if you want to do that or not. Um, and so we do have a couple of questions. So since you're talking about quinoa, we have some protein questions. I'm going to hold off
Okay.
those until you start. But with the quinoa, What I noticed actually when you cook a small amount, so you want to cook it in a smaller pan. You don't want to
Mhm.
cook it in a big flat like a skillet because it's going to, right, cook too quickly. The water is going to evaporate. So be cautious because this is a small amount that you want to use like the pan, the height and the width that like a saucepan that Emily's.
Exactly.
But we have someone who's sent a question and saying they're just struggling making quinoa. I can relate. And it's kind of getting mushy and not really working for them. Can you give them some helpful tips?
Well, first I want to say I've been there. I feel your pain. It's probably happened to everybody who's cooked a grain, quinoa, rice, and it's not what you want. It's not what you expected. And there's a few different things that I've kind of taken in the approach of cooking quinoa, for example. So there's different methods to cook quinoa. You can bring the water to boil, add the quinoa. That works for a lot of people. This, just by doing it all in one pot, it's a little bit easier, and I tend not to forget to add the salts, and everything is there. I have also brought water to the boil and say I'm going to add that quinoa, and then there's if the water's boiled away because I forgot to add the quinoa. So attentiveness is good. So this is boiling already. Okay. Remember, small amount. So what I want to do is turn this down so that it's not at a crazy boil, and I'm going to cover it. Okay. And keep an eye on it. So we're going to check it in about 10 minutes. Now, as Tracie said, the vessel that you use will affect how it's cooking. So if I had a really large pan with that little bit of water, it would evaporate quite quickly and it probably wouldn't cook very evenly. So having that slightly taller saucepan kind of helps. The amount of liquid in it also varies based on my experience, the quinoa that you're purchasing. So I'd like to think that all quinoa is the same, but it's not. I've noticed a few different sizes, and that's okay. It's just sometimes you have to vary how you cook it. Now, I also have family members, and I've done it a couple times too, that they cook their quinoa in their rice cooker with great success. Okay. So they've tried out the rice method of like 2 to 1 of the liquid ratio, and it's been a little bit too soft and squishy. But the method of equal amount of water and quinoa works really nicely in a steamer. So, but again, that varies on the rice steamer that you have because sometimes you need a little bit less water. So, what I'm doing today is slightly larger amount, so a slightly higher volume of water to quinoa, and we'll see how it goes. So, do I have an answer for you? No, I'm basically giving you a roundabout of a lot of answers. And if you are always buying the same brand of quinoa, then you can figure that out easily because you will always use the same amount. There is recommendations on the packages, and if you're buying a Canadian quinoa, then they have great instructions. Not all, if you're buying it in bulk, you might not get those instructions. So, and recipes also vary. I do a recipe where I toast the quinoa first in a large skillet. It's for a larger amount of quinoa, and then I add the broth right to the skillet. But because the quinoa is really hot and toasted, it absorbs the broth a little bit quicker, so it doesn't cook as long. So there's lots of different methods to this madness of getting the quinoa to the right texture. So I also recommend that you don't cook it for too long. So anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes works really well. If there's still a little bit of liquid in there, but the quinoa is cooked, you can put it through the sieve again and drain it, or you can actually spread it out onto a baking sheet and it'll cool faster. And then that little bit of excess water will also evaporate. Okay. So hopefully some of those things help. If not, we'll revisit it. Send me an email and I'll practice some more. So I am going to kind of keep an eye on this. It's got a light little simmer happening, and we're going to just check how the water absorbs quinoa. Okay. What was the other question, Tracie? Was there another
Hi,
question?
you did great. No, that was good. We talked about the quinoa, so no, so that's
Okay.
good. And so I'm just looking here to see where you're at right here. So We did get a few questions and about the beef that's in the recipe. So
Okay.
this is a great recipe because prices being what they are, this is a great way to stretch what you're buying to enjoy it and benefit from it and not feeling like you have to get these huge pieces of meat, but you're able to stretch it. Plus, the quinoa also has protein in it. So, Emily's going to talk to us because it matters. I am going to share a real quick. I had stewing beef. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to make stew, right? Cubes. I'm going to make shish kebabs. No, you cannot, because it's a tougher cut of meat and it needs to be cooked low and slow to be tender. It was essentially something that you couldn't eat. It was that tough. So there's a lot of different tools out there to help you pick the right cut. And Emily's going to share that now. Thank you, Emily. Go
No
ahead.
problem. When Tracie shared her story with me, I was like, "You're not the only one." It's you know how you'll hear people say you need the right tool for the job, you need the right beef for the job, you need the right beef for the recipe, and so oftentimes we are encouraged by seeing sale, a discounted beef on sale. So you want to grab it because you want to make something, but it might not actually be the right cut for what you want to make. And Tracie gave a great example of it. However, caveat here, there is a lot of beef that if you marinate it really, really well, then you can use it for different purposes. But let's just put the blanket statement out there. If you're buying stewing beef, let it cook for a while, usually about an hour and a half, and you get a beautiful, tender, delicious dish. It doesn't have to be a stew, but maybe it could be a sauce. I love making a hearty ragu dish. So a tomato sauce with beef chunks in it and letting it simmer for about, again, an hour and a half, and it just falls apart. And it's great with like a nice big pasta. So those types of things you have to consider. But let's say you are in the grocery store and you're like, you know what? This eye of round roast is on sale. It's 40% off. It's a great price. I think I'm going to make it, but you're not sure what to do with it. So I just want to point out a great website. It's cdnbeef.ca. And what you can do is you can actually scan the code on your beef package and it'll bring you to the section of where eye of round is and instruct you how to cook it and give you some recipes for it. So if it's a cut like a blade roast, for example, which is a pot roast, and you've never cooked one before, but you're getting a great deal. It's $15 and you want to feed the family. This is a great website to check out. So you can, and if you don't need to use it with your phone. You can actually just put it into your computer and check the section of, find your beef cut and click it. It has a picture of it, which is super helpful. And then it'll tell you a little descriptor of, the flavor or the tenderness of the beef cut, and then how to cook it with some recipes. So you don't have to kind of struggle. I mean, I remember enjoying steak at someone else's house who will remain nameless, just in case, you never know. And I would always wonder why, like the steak was really, really tough. I never asked what cut it was, or I knew they loved to barbecue. And so they were just serving steak. And you think, wow, I'm going to a friend's place and they're having steak. This is awesome. What I then found out, in casual conversation is, oh, they were purchasing inside round steak, which is very common, but that is best as a simmering steak, not necessarily as a barbecue cut, like a grilling cut. So, you start to find out, and then you just realize that they were looking at the price, which is okay. You can be driven by price, and that's what we're actually using today. It's a great cut that is not too expensive. And because again, we're cooking for two, you don't need as much. So I have an example. These are both top sirloin, which is what we call for in the recipe. And it is a grilling cut, so you can throw this on the grill. But it comes, so, the bigger piece of it can be larger, and you can actually get it as a roast as well, but we're using a steak. And this part is the top sirloin cap, which actually has a little bit of a stronger beefy flavor to it. So, but it's a little bit more tender than the actual inside part of the top sirloin. Overall, this is perfect. Using it for a kebab. You could also use this for stir fry. You can grill it up as you would a steak, as you would sirloin, for example, or ribeye. But that's where the price point might be a little bit more. So I just want to point out, this is the amount of beef that we actually need here today. Okay. This is just a little bit over 8 ounces. And I got a little bit, so 250 grams. I got just a smidge more because I'm going to remove this thicker fat cap on the outside. And this is all we need for the two servings. Okay. So some of you are thinking, well, I want to know how much you paid for that. This was $10. Okay. So now you're thinking, wow, that's not very much for $10. This is half a pound of beef for $10. Now I want you to do the math. We're serving two people, just the beef. So that's $5 per person. Where can you go and get two kebabs per person about for $5? So if we change our mindset a little bit about how we're approaching the protein that we're using, I think it becomes very doable. And then if you get it on sale, it's even better. Okay. So this is how much beef that I'm going to use today, but this is, and this is actually just a little bit more. It's a little bit of a thinner steak as well. So this one was $15, and this is almost a pound. Okay. But this is what we're going to use. And you can see it has some really nice marbling in it. So it's going to have a really nice tenderness to it. Okay. So was that helpful, Tracie, or was that again too much? I might have gone over the top again. Sorry.
Emily is never too much. I, on the other hand, perhaps once in a while. So, no, I'm kidding. I put the link to the site that Emily's talking about in the chat. So you can just easily copy and paste it if you want to take a look at it. And I often do this. I will buy one piece of protein, whatever that is, and cut it up and use it in different ways than buying pre-cut meat, just because then I can, if it's a good deal. The other thing is, and Emily and I, we talk about this a lot, if something is on sale and you can buy more than one, pop it into the freezer for use at another time. Because as long as they're like separately packaged so that you can take one out or two out as needed, it's a great thing. So yes, you did. I'm going to give you the two other questions while you cut the meat,
Okay.
and I know you're going to talk about cutting the meat. So somebody said, like, how do you keep, the beef tender and moist and not be chewy? So again, I'd probably say maybe it's a type of cut, but perhaps the way the preparation is. So Emily, I'm going to let you answer those.
So you're right, Tracie. It is a little bit of both. It is the cut of beef that could cause a little bit of chewiness. So we talked a bit about that, right? So having the right cut for the right job, and also cutting it. So if you are after cooking it, you always hear kind of slicing across the grain. So when you take a look at a beef cut, some is more obvious than others. Like I always love using flank steak because it's very obvious. The grain goes this way, so you slice it this way. Not all cuts are like that. Sometimes you'll get a roast, for example, that part of it runs this way and the other part runs this way, but it doesn't make sense to kind of slice this way and then slice this way. And you try to make the best of both worlds. When it comes to kebabs, what's great about it is that we're cutting it into a smaller cube. And so the surface area that's going to hit the marinade will get some of the flavor, but that also helps with the cooking so that it's nice and even, which in the end helps with getting some of that tenderness. So I'm going to cut these into, I think I said 1 inch pieces or thereabouts. But what I want is these pieces to be similar size so that they cook evenly. Okay. And so there, I think I'll do that 1 and 3 and then add it right to my bowl here. And then just make sure that it's nicely coated with our herb mixture. Okay. Now, what's great about using smaller amounts of beef or any protein is that when it comes to a kebab, you can actually like visualize in your mind how many pieces are going to go on each kebab. So I like to think for these, because it's 2 servings, that everybody gets 2 kebabs. If you want to make smaller kebabs, you totally can, and then get more, or maybe you want to serve it as an appetizer. You could do that and cut the cubes just a little bit smaller and then serve it up on smaller skewers or toothpicks. Okay, so I'm gonna just give my hands a wash, and then we gotta check that quinoa because I want to make sure that we are cooking it nicely and that it's absorbing the water. Now, I should also mention, as I've been chatting since we started, I have in this little baking pan some water with, I have some bamboo skewers in here, just soaking. So this is always an important piece of the puzzle when you're grilling and using bamboo, so you don't have big flare-ups. If they're dry, they do tend to kind of burn a little bit, in particular on the areas that are exposed. And so you want to try to reduce that a bit, and soaking them in water really helps. You could also use metal skewers here. So if you have metal skewers, and I do want to point out, because I love these, I'm not using them today because they're too big, but when I'm out on the barbecue, I tend to use these. These are larger ones, but if you can find them, they're flat skewers. So they're not rounded, they're flat on the edge here. So when you skewer the meat, it doesn't roll around. And so these are a little bit long for what I'm doing today, but these are great if you are an avid griller. Check them out. And then what's wonderful about them is that you just wash them and you can, reuse them. All right, let's check this quinoa. Oh, it looks pretty good. So if you take a look in my pot, I'm going to get a fork. I think that might have been about 10 minutes. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really keeping track. But I'm going to go in here, and what I want you to notice, I'll bring it up to this camera so you can kind of see a bit better. When I move my fork around here, see how everything is just lightly fluffy and there's no liquid anymore. So you can kind of see the difference. If I pull this back, all the water's gone. And if I was making a large amount, I would actually, as I suggested earlier, spread it onto a baking sheet to have it cool down quicker. But the great part about this recipe is that it doesn't have to be cold. You could have it warm, you could have it hot. It doesn't matter. So if you are making it ahead, having it cold is just as delightful as having it warm. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to scooch this over here so it's out of the way. And then I'm going to put my quinoa into my herb bowl, okay? And once that nice warm quinoa hits in there, the herbs will smell amazing. Not that they didn't already, but. Okay. So in goes my quinoa. And we can actually finish off the recipe here for our tabouli, okay? Now, tabouli, as I mentioned earlier too, usually has a lot of parsley in it. So this is, our focus was a little bit more on the quinoa, because guess what? Quinoa has some protein in it too. So that is wonderful in addition to the protein we're getting from our beef, okay? So here I'm gonna add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil again. Again, whatever oil you were using before, you can use here as well. So a couple tablespoons going in, and then I'm going to use, remember that lemon juice? We had the zest going in with our beef, and now I'm just going to use some of that fresh juice in my quinoa. And if you didn't have lemon for either recipe, that's totally okay, but do add a little bit. I'm going to take this lemon seed out because, oh, well, no, it's in there. No, I got it. Do add a little bit of acidity. So you could add just a splash of vinegar in here if you don't have a lemon kicking around. That would be quite lovely. And then I am going to add a little bit of garlic to this too. So I just have a small clove of garlic in here. And if you are not a fan of raw garlic, you could actually mince the garlic and cook it in with your quinoa, okay? So that it does cook up really, really nicely here. So I'm just going to stir that together. And then I'm going to set it aside and come back to it and add our veggies, because I want to get my skewers going, okay? So in the recipe, it tells you that you can marinate this for about 15 minutes, just tuck it in the fridge. If you forget about it till tomorrow, that's totally okay. It'll just get a stronger flavor of the herbs and the lemon, which is really nice. There's no acid in that marinade, so we don't have to worry about the protein breaking down. So if you by chance left it in, a second day, you're gonna want to eat this though, so I don't think it will, but there's no acid in it, so you don't have to worry about kind of the meat breaking down in any way. All right, so we're gonna build some kebabs. While we're building kebabs, Tracie, if there's any questions, I should be able to multitask here and answer a question and build some kebabs. We'll see.
Okay, you want the pattern, right? You want to put them all in order and you want to put them all down and have everything out in front of you. That way you chop up,
Yes.
have your mise en place and then have it all there. And then you just see, there we go. We'll just watch you for a little bit. No, I'm kidding. So we do have a question while you're doing this. So we've talked a lot about beef and we have a couple of questions about chicken and pork
Mhm.
around more so the cooking time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how should someone gauge? So the recipe is based on beef. So for the
Yes.
cooking time with chicken and pork, like what would you suggest?
So believe it or not, it would be quite similar. I think what's more important is the temperature. Okay. So I am a big believer of having a thermometer, an instant read thermometer for these types of recipes so that you can check the beef or any protein. So because you're cutting them into small pieces, and again, that doesn't matter the protein, they'll all be kind of cut in similar size pieces. And so what you can do is, I think, I think I said, is it 8 minutes or 10 minutes? I'm in the recipe. For chicken and pork, it'll be quite similar. So it's the degree of doneness that's going to be different, right? So with pork, you can let it cook till there's a hint of pink. And so the temperature is usually about 150, 155 that you're looking for pork. For chicken or turkey, if you wanted to use that, you want it so that it's no longer pink inside. That's the degree of doneness. And the temperature will be about anywhere from 160 to 170. Okay. So if you want to take it off at 160, and this goes across the board, it'll sit and kind of keep cooking. So, and you can use white or dark chicken or turkey in this recipe too. So if you want something a little bit on the leaner side, chicken breast would be the way to go. If you want a leaner cut for pork, pork tenderloin would be great here, or pork loin. So you could use any of those, which would be quite lovely. So in the case of beef, we are also going with the degree of doneness, so you can have it to your liking. So typically, the kind of less cooked it is on the inside, it's a bit more tender, but not everybody wants medium rare. You might want medium or you might want medium well. So it is good to cook it to your degree of doneness. And it's recommended for medium, I think we say medium rare in the recipe, or maybe we just call for the temperature, but about 145. So what that means is you take it off at about 140 and then it'll sit and finish cooking. Now, that benefits all food, especially when you're cooking protein, to have it, give it the opportunity to let it sit and get to the temperature. And that helps with, we were talking about the texture of meat earlier. That will also help with a nice tender, juicy steak, for example, so that you take it off and then you can enjoy the wonderful juiciness that is the steak. Now I'm trying to balance this out, and because I'm not really paying attention, I'm going to end up with bigger kebabs and smaller kebabs, but that's okay. I'll have the bigger ones and maybe I'll save the smaller ones for Tracie.
I'm coming
um,
over.
I know, you really should. Was that the only question, or was there another question in there that I should be answering, Tracie?
No, that's good. And actually, I did just quickly check the recipe, so you are correct. It was 145 degrees for doneness,
Okay.
and it's 10 minutes to cook.
Okay, perfect.
However, I'm just going to actually double check right here for about 10 minutes. But the
Okay.
thing is, if you cut, so this is based on the 1 inch cubes that Emily,
Mhm.
if you cut it smaller, it's going to cook quicker. If you cut them bigger, it's going to take a little bit longer. So just to keep in mind with that, I did just want to touch on a couple of things. So we're always asked, well, if I don't like quinoa, do I have to make quinoa? Well, what if I don't like zucchini? Somebody's asked that. I picked my first zucchini from the garden today. So there will be zucchini. The nutrition that you see, the nutritional breakdown on the website, as always, is based on the recipe as it's written. But you can change whatever you would like. And that's where I encourage people to use the nutrient calculator. Because if you want to, let's say, quinoa has protein, rice doesn't, or couscous doesn't, but that's fine. You can completely use that. Your protein amount per serving is going to change. The other thing is, if you don't like zucchini or peppers, you just want to make sure the vegetables that you cut again are a good size and they don't break as you put them on the skewer. I personally love whole mushrooms that
Hmm.
I put on mine. I like pieces of red onion. And right now we're starting to be in a season where depending, where you live, where there's a lot of local produce. So whatever you find and whatever your tastes are, definitely, whatever makes you happy kind of thing. But just be aware of the nutrient breakdown. And the last thing I'll say is, one meal, we always say this, it's not going to make or break you. It's part of a whole journey, your week. And that's why meal planning is really important. But this is going to be a fabulous, tasty dish. Let's get those on the griddle. Is that what it is? A griddle? No,
It's a
it's a
grill pan.
it's
It's
a
a grill pan,
grill
but you could
pan.
totally do it on a griddle. You could do it, and this is where we're going to talk about all those different cooking techniques
Methods.
so
Yep.
that, if you don't have a grill pan, if you're not outside on the grill, you can still make them. They're still delicious. And by the way, you could also just stir fry this. So if didn't want to, because I know a lot of people, when it comes to kebabs, they're like, you know what? I don't want to take the meat off after. I just want to eat it. So what you can do is actually just have everything cut the same way and stir fry it. And it will be just as delicious. You're going to get the benefit of the marinade and it's going to be wonderful. So you can definitely appreciate that as a different stir fry. So I'm using a grill pan. This is very similar to how I would kind of treat my grill outside. So I clean it off before I start it. Before I light it and before it gets hot, I also either use a cooking spray or rub it with a little bit of oil and then it starts to heat up. So usually medium high heat is great for kebabs. If you have hot spots, you will know your grill best. So make sure that you're aware, in particular if you're using the bamboo skewers, and so that you can place the kebabs in the right place so that they don't have big flare-ups and also so that they don't kind of cook too quickly. You want to have a nice sear on them because we are going to be turning them so they get a really nice golden color, but we also want them to cook through nicely and evenly. So this is very similar to how I would treat my grill outside. The only difference is that I'm not going to be able to close my lid. So outside on the grill, I definitely would put them on, close the lid, and then come back and turn them a few times. Where here, I'll be able to just turn it as I'm cooking. I am heating it up first. So definitely across the board, barbecue or grill pan, griddle, skillet, let it warm up a bit first. So I have a good amount of heat coming off my grill pan, and then I can add my kebabs in there and get that nice sear. Now, I didn't check to see if the skewers actually fit in here, but it looks like I'm gonna luck out and get them to, well, this one's not gonna fit, so I'll just break this off. There we go. Okay, so those are gonna go in on the grill. But if you are not going to be using a grill pan or a grill or a griddle, and you want to do them in the oven, you want a nice hot oven. Okay, so you can roast them at a nice high heat. So even 450 would be great. Put them on the baking sheet. And again, it's still going to take probably about 10 minutes, but you're going to need to go in the oven and turn them a few times. Okay, so that again, they get a nice even caramelization happening on the outside. And it'll also help when you want to broil them, because that's your other option. So in the oven, that top part, the broiler, that will happen a little bit quicker. Okay, so if you are using a broiler, don't get it too close to the broiler. I usually like to leave about a 6-inch space I'm just going to turn these a little bit so that they're not cooking just on one side. Okay. So with a broiler, same thing. So much like I'm turning these under the broiler, you're going to turn them, but a little bit sooner because that heat is more direct. I have to cough. Sorry. I truly do have smoke coming in the house now. All right. So whether I'm out on the grill or in this grill pan or in the oven, as I just explained, I definitely want to make sure that I'm turning them so that they get nice and even. The veggies are going to get a nice bit of golden color, and the beef we want cooked so that it has that nice little bit of pink on the inside. So we get that nice texture. So while this is happening, we're going to finish off our tabouleh and add our veggies. Okay. So I just chopped up some tomato and cucumber and green onion. Now, I love this combination for summertime because to me, tomatoes and cucumber is my favorite summer salad. But that doesn't mean that you can't add, let's say you have extra pepper, you can add some pepper here, you can add carrots. You could, if you have leftover roasted vegetables, you could add that in here. Even if you had a sweet potato, but you had leftover roasted and you just want to dice it up and add it. You could also add, get this, for even added protein and fiber, you could add some beans. Okay, if you had a can of beans kicking around, you could add that in here too. Whatever it is, it's about 2 cups that you're going to add. Okay. I'm not adding too much green onion, but if you wanted to balance it off, you could add more of those fresh herbs. Okay. I have some beautiful basil here that would be amazing as well in here to add. Now, the last component of this is our feta cheese. And I think what I love about it is that it helps season the overall dish, which is perfect. It has that nice little bit of saltiness, that brininess that works with the tomato and the cucumber. And as a salad cheese, it's one of my favorites to add. Okay. I'm going to clip these around a little bit more. I wish you guys could smell this because the herbs are just amazing. Like they're great fresh, but then as soon as you incorporate them and get that little bit of heat on them, it just sparks a whole nother bit of flavor, aroma. And then in goes my 1/2 cup of feta cheese. Now, you could also use goat cheese here if you wanted. If you wanted something a bit stronger, blue cheese would be absolutely delicious in this as well. Okay. So this you could make ahead, tuck it in the refrigerator. You could have your beef marinating. You can even make your kebabs and have those in the refrigerator. So if you're making this for a special guest that's coming over, and you want to have everything ready to go so that you just need to go out to the grill and grill the kebabs, this would be a great deck dinner or a patio dinner so that you have everything ready with the salad. You just go out and grill it, and then you come back and put everything together. Any questions, Tracie? Concerns?
Concern, I'm glad you're not grilling outside with all this. I just see all the smoke coming. I'm like, I'm so glad you're not outside.
Can you hear that?
Did you set something off? Oh my gosh. And this is why we have to be careful. The kitchen can be a wonderful, but sometimes hazardous place. So Emily set off her fire alarm. So while she tends to that, um, I just wanted to answer a question that came in. So it was about the calcium. So exactly like where are we getting all the calcium from? There are little bits. We always say this. So sometimes if you combine foods, you're going to get that amount that you want per serving. And I just got on the nutrient calculator. I picked up my phone and there's little bits of calcium. I mean, the bulk of this is coming from the feta cheese, but really you're getting some from the zucchini, some from the bell pepper. There's a little bit in the beef. There's also some, oh, I did already put the beef in there. And in some of the other nutrients like the quinoa. So once you add in everything per serving, you're going to get that amount for the calcium. There's Emily. Emily, are we good? Do I need to call
We are
someone?
we are good. No, we are good. We're all good. But
Okay, great. So
there's
yes,
definitely we
first,
are
everyone.
definitely cooking. I want everybody to know we are
Yeah, this
really
isn't
cooking.
AI. This is really Emily who's really cooking. So that's pretty funny. But yes, so there is that. Now, I wanted to ask Emily a quick question.
Yeah.
So if you are for one, let's say you're making this for one, could you put two of the skewers together and grill them fresh the next day? Some people have a thing about leftovers. I'm
Oh
perfectly
yeah.
to eat
That's a
them.
great idea.
But if you're like, I like to freshly do it, you could just keep like all the little bits together in the refrigerator and then just do two new skewers the next day. Make your tabouleh. You could even assemble the tabouleh. You just split everything in
Oh
half
yeah. Yeah,
and
you
you can
totally
do that.
could. Yeah, I
So
think that's a great idea. I love that idea. And so you could go either way. You could make the kebabs and have them ready to grill off, or you could just have the ingredients like leave the beef in the bowl, have your veggies chopped up, and put them together last minute. And if you only need one or two for today, and then you want to grill them fresh the next day, that would work really, really well for sure.
absolute great. And then somebody has asked, so they have a bit of an acid reflux issue. They can't have
Okay.
the lemon juice or the garlic. As Emily said, just leave it out.
Yeah.
And because of all the herbs, you're still going to get all that flavor. Emily, do you have any other suggestions on that?
What I would do then, just to get a little bit more bang of flavor, is instead of using the water for the quinoa, use that chicken or vegetable broth so that you do get some more flavor coming through. And that will help kind of, it's not a lot of lemon juice in there, but it will help kind of elevate the flavor a little bit more, which is really nice.
Okay, that's great. I think actually, how are we doing with those kebabs?
I just checked the temperature. They're about 5 degrees off. So we're not far, which is great. So that's the other benefit of having everything cut the same size. And because they're small, they do cook fairly quickly, which is something we all appreciate on a busy Wednesday afternoon.
Is it Wednesday? I've lost track. It's all. What is happening? But yes, I just let's get an overhead. Patrick is in the background. Let's get an overhead, Patrick, of the kebabs. They look
Yeah.
delicious.
I'll bring one a little closer to you if you can see that.
Yes. One day we'll
There we
be able
go.
to actually have the aroma of what we're cooking. Here's a question, because we always talk about resting protein. Do we need to rest this protein because it's so small and because it's a kebab?
I think if you think about the time of like taking it off, putting it on the plate and serving it, those few minutes there, that's kind of considered resting time. But it always is beneficial if you have the time to take them off, let them sit, in this case, because everything's small, 2 to 3 minutes, and then serve them so that you can kind of dig in and get the juiciness of it. If you're talking a larger steak or a larger roast, definitely you need more time for that. And then you see the benefits when you cut into it and you have all that wonderful flavor and juiciness. But oftentimes when it comes to kebabs, everybody just wants to dig in right away because they cook so quickly, which is fabulous.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to scoop up some of our tabouleh here. So this is a nice generous amount of tabouleh for two people. Okay, so this is half essentially just goes on the plate. So this is a fabulous, summer meal, but I love grilling year round, so I would definitely enjoy this throughout the year too. And then I'm just going to turn this guy off. And I'm going to put two of our kebabs on here. And my son, who is helping with the smoke in the kitchen, guess what he gets to have? The other two, because there actually are two of us in the house today. So we'll definitely be able to enjoy that. But this is our meal. Oh boy.
Well, Emily, while you serve it up, because then Emily, I know it's hot. A lot of you were just, I'm reading all the comments. So I took, there was a pause. There was a quiet pause because I was reading all the comments. So many people, and a few people said this is their very first cooking demo.
Oh,
Welcome. We're
welcome.
so happy that you're here, and there are going to be more. And as always, and if you don't know, we are recording this. And because you've registered, you will get the email tomorrow with the recording, the OC replay. You can even watch previous ones. There, Emily. So, Emily, did you have the taste?
I had some tabouli. I haven't, I'm not a like this kind of a kebab eater. I
Yes.
take everything off the skewer and then eat it. So I'm gonna have some of the kebab, the beef, and some pepper.
Careful, because it's
So
hot. You just pulled it off the grill. It's so good. I know she made too. Your son, he'll be very happy. He's going to have that. But I wanted to comment on this recipe. We've got a few of them where we make two pieces to the recipe and you can make them separate. So if you want to just make the kebabs and a salad, like just a vegetable salad, you can do that. If you just want to make the tabouli quinoa salad and just have that, you can do that. These are things you can have together or you can do it separately. So are you going to make yummy noises now? Is it, it's all
it was
good.
so good. I'm like,
So good.
I didn't have I had late breakfast because I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a late lunch. It's hitting the spot. I can't tell you.
Oh, oh my God, I love food like that. So I'm very excited. So before, because I know we're actually at the hour, just over a minute. Russell Thorne from the Pass in Manitoba. I hope I pronounced all of that correctly. Congratulations, Russell. You are going to get the apron. So I will reach out and we will ship that to you. So for more information, so again, the nutrient calculator, please, if you haven't, download it or use it on the website. We also have other recorded webinars. We did that GLP-1 medications and bone health webinar. We are going to be doing a French version in September. So, FYI, if you know anyone who's French speaking that is looking for more information, there are other recipes. This is a great zucchini ricotta roll. It's a long time recipe, very popular. And podcast, we have that on the website, also on iTunes and other podcast providers. So definitely the website is where you want to go. In September, we have a webinar on breast cancer and bone health, and that is going to be September 23rd. You can register for that now, and that will be happening. There are new things coming. Emily and I are working on new recipes. So that means there will be new cooking demos, and those will be starting, I think, September. There will be more to come. So check that out. And as always, if you have not subscribed, please do. Find us on social media. There will be other things posted. But thank you so much, everyone. This was so much fun. This is our summer cooking demo. Thank you, as always, for supporting Osteoporosis Canada. For more information, even on programming, support groups, etc., please visit the website. Emily, enjoy. Stay
Thank
cool,
you.
smoke free. And thank you as always.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye bye.